Let's take a look at a Korbanth MPP lightsaber hilt that was weathered by Shameem, and not just weathered, it's heavily weathered. So ordinarily a hilt like this would have kind of more of a metallic finish to it. Everything is very dark, very sort of charred. It looks like this hilt has sort of maybe survived a fire or you know, survived the Death Star, that type of thing. And this is a custom saber that is inspired by the Darth Vader lightsaber, by the way. I'll throw that in there. But it kind of tells this sort of alternate reality story, you know, that's like somehow it's like the Vader lightsaber was maybe recovered, you know, which seems maybe not too plausible if we follow the narrative directly, but it really tells this story of probably being in some kind of fire or some very trying conditions. And the weathering throughout this hilt is gorgeous. So for the most part, the weathered part of the hilt is the metal part of the hilt. So, you know, this top part, the shroud, and also the T-track grips don't have weathering, don't appear to have weathering to them, but the different metal parts around the hilt do. And if we look at kind of this top part of the hilt, it really has this sort of smoky appearance to it, sort of cloudy, smoky weathering at the top, which is a pretty cool effect. And it's sort of a little bit, you know, dark, sort of grayish, sort of brownish even. And then we can see that the different greeblies are also weathered, which is a nice touch because, you know, that really adds to the effect. If the greeblies aren't weathered and the screws aren't weathered, it detracts from the realism, but they certainly are here. The D-ring is weathered as well. Now, if we move to the middle of the hilt, we see there's some kind of black added to the otherwise kind of transparent or sort of clear bubble strip in the middle. And then the clamp on the side also has some of this kind of texture added to it, this darker texture. And there's a little bit of weathering also added to the clamp area. It's a bit harder to see because it's already black, but you know, there's maybe a little bit of a brown coloring added to it. And then when we get to the grip section, you know, the grips don't appear to be weathered, but below that, there's almost this sort of like tree ring, or there's these very fine lines. So the weathering for this lower part of the hilt is a little bit different than at the top. It's a little more kind of a cloudy style at the top, and then below there's these kind of lines, and there's also, you know, black and some brown mixed in there too. So it could maybe, you know, represent dirt or just some other type of grit. Who knows? I mean, the fun thing about weathering is you can kind of make up your own story of how a lightsaber survived, or, you know, what kind of battles it was in, create an alternate reality, that type of thing. And, you know, the neat thing about weathering in general too is each weathered hilt just really can have its own personality. Even if the hilt overall is the same, the weathering can be a little bit different each time. So that's pretty cool. And then here's the bottom of the pommel. And, you know, again, there's a lot of this sort of dark, smoky color, along with some brown. So just, you know, really overall gorgeously weathered. The blade plug in the top is also weathered. And it just has this kind of charred, smoky appearance overall, you know, like you probably pulled it out of a fire or something like that. But, you know, all of the main part of the lightsaber remains and endures. So, you know, maybe part of our story, somebody found it and they, you know, replaced some of the things like the grip section, and they're able to use the hilt. Who knows? Again, create your own story, but this is a pretty cool hilt, you guys. This is a Korbanth MPP that has been heavily weathered by Shameem, and it takes a 7/8 inch diameter blade, and also the weathering has a clear coat over the top of it, you know, to kind of help keep the finish. So here it is, you guys, and feel free to comment.